Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the stars through the main viewport. It was humanity's first journey beyond their home solar system. The year was 2387, and Earth had finally built ships that could travel faster than light using quantum full drives. "Captain, we're approaching the target system," said Lisa Carter, the chief science officer. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and bright green eyes. Her voice carried excitement mixed with nervousness. Jake nodded and looked around at his crew. Ryan Powell, the security chief, stood near the weapons console. He was a big man, with strong arms and a serious face. Kate Phillips, the ship's engineer, was checking her instruments.
Ow.
She had blonde hair tied back and wore oil-stained work clothes.
Nice.
"Take us out of fold space," Jake ordered. The stars stopped streaking past. The windows. Space became normal again. But what they saw made everyone on the bridge go quiet. "My God," whispered Dr. Amanda Brooks, the ship's archaeologist. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes behind thick glasses. Before them lay a dead star system. 3 planets orbited a dying red sun. The planets looked wrong. Their surfaces were cracked and burned. Strange metal structures stuck out of the ground like broken bones. "Lisa, what are you reading?" Jake asked. Lisa worked at her console. Her face grew pale. "Captain, these planets were destroyed by weapons, not natural disasters.
God.
The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever happened here was deliberate." "How long ago?" Jake wanted to know. "The radiation patterns suggest about 500 years, Lisa replied. "But sir, there's something else. I'm detecting artificial structures on the second planet. They're old, but still intact." Jake made his decision quickly. "Ryan, prep a landing team. Amanda, you're with us. I want to know what happened here." 2 hours later, their shuttle landed on the second planet's surface. The air was thin but breathable. Strange purple plants grew between the ruins of what had once been a great city. The buildings were made of a blue-green metal that seemed to glow in the dim light. Amanda knelt beside a large stone covered in writing. "These symbols are unlike anything in our databases, but the mathematical patterns suggest an advanced civilization." Ryan kept watch while the scientists worked. His hand stayed near his weapon. Something about this place felt dangerous. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa called from inside a partially collapsed building. Jake followed her voice. Inside, they found a room with walls covered in pictures. The images told a story that made their blood run cold. The pictures showed happy people living in the city. They had blue skin and long arms. Children played in parks. Adults worked in clean factories. It looked like a perfect world. Then the next pictures changed everything. Strange beings appeared in the sky. They looked like tall humans, but glowed with white light. Their eyes burned like stars. The blue-skinned people bowed down before them. The final pictures showed horror. The glowing beings stood over piles of bodies. Cities burned. Ships fled into space only to be destroyed by beams of light. "Whoever these glowing people are, they wiped out an entire civilization," Amanda said quietly. "And they might still be out there," Ryan added. Checking his weapon again, as if his words had summoned danger, alarms began screaming on their shuttle's radio. "Captain Morrison, this is the Horizon," came the voice of their communications officer. "We have company. 5 unknown ships just appeared on our sensors. They're huge, sir. Each one is 3 times our size." Jake's heart pounded. "We're on our way back. Keep the engines warm." They ran toward their shuttle, but they were too late. 5 massive ships appeared in the sky above them. Each vessel was pure white and shaped like a long blade. They moved. Without making any sound, beams of light shot down from the ships. The beams surrounded Jake and his team, but didn't hurt them. Instead, the light felt warm and made them feel sleepy. "Don't fight it, Jake," told his people. "Save your strength." Light lifted them into the air. They floated up toward the nearest ship like leaves in the wind. As they rose, Jake saw more beams hitting the horizon. His ship was being captured too. Inside the alien vessel, they found themselves in a room with walls that looked like flowing water. The floor was soft and springy. Everything glowed with the same white light they had seen in the pictures. Then they appeared. Three beings walked through the wall as if it wasn't there. They were tall and thin, wearing robes that seemed to be made of light itself. Their faces were beautiful but cold. Their eyes burned like small suns. The one in the middle spoke without moving his mouth. His voice appeared directly in their minds. "I am Commander Zelthos of the Celestial Dominion. You will kneel before your gods." Jake stayed standing.
So did
his crew. They had trained for first contact with aliens, but no training had prepared them for beings who claimed to be gods. "We are humans from the planet Earth," Jake said. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." Commander Zelthos looked surprised. "You do not kneel. This is strange. All beings kneel before the divine Zephyrians." "We kneel to no one," Lisa said firmly. "If you're really gods, prove it." The commander's eyes flared brighter. "Prove it. We are eternal. We control matter itself. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. Amanda stepped forward, still holding her scanner. 10,000 years isn't very long for gods. Our planet has life that's billions of years old. Matter control is just advanced technology." The three Zephyrians looked at each other. Jake could tell they were communicating without words. Finally, Commander Zelthos spoke again. "Your defiance is amusing, but foolish. You will learn respect in the labor camps of Nexus Prime. There you will serve the divine will until your bodies fail. Our people will come looking for us," Ryan warned. "Them come," the commander replied. "They will join you in slavery or die. The Celestial Dominion accepts no equals." Jake felt anger building in his chest. These beings had destroyed entire civilizations and enslaved countless others. They called themselves gods, but acted like tyrants. "Your rule ends now," Jake said. Quietly, Commander Zelthos laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "How? You have no weapons that can harm us. Your technology is primitive. Your ship is already being studied by our scientists." "Because we have something you don't understand," Jake replied. "We have hope. We have courage, and we never give up." The commander's smile faded. Such words are meaningless before divine power. More Zephyrians entered the room. These ones wore different robes and carried weapons that looked like staffs made of light. They surrounded the humans. "Take them to the holding cells," Commander Zelthos ordered. "Prepare them for transport to Nexus Prime. The High Council will. Want to see these strange beings who refuse to bow?" As the guards led them away, Jake caught Lisa's eye. She gave him a small nod. She understood. This was just the beginning. These so-called gods had made one big mistake. They had underestimated humanity. The humans had seen the pictures in the ruins. They knew what the Zephyrians were capable of. But the Zephyrians didn't know what humans were capable of. They would learn in the depths of the alien ship as they were locked in cells that hummed with strange energy. Jake Morrison smiled. The Celestial Dominion had ruled for 10,000 years, but their reign of terror was about to meet its greatest challenge. Humanity had arrived. The prison cells were made of crystal that glowed with blue light. Jake Morrison sat on the hard floor, feeling weak. The crystal walls seemed to drain his energy and make his thoughts fuzzy. But he fought against the feeling and kept his mind sharp. Lisa Carter was in the cell next to him. She pressed her hands against the crystal wall between them. "Shh, can you hear me?" "Barely," Jake replied. His voice sounded tired. "These walls are doing something to us." "I've been studying the crystal structure," Lisa whispered. "It's designed to weaken biological functions. But there's something strange. It's not working on us as well as it should." In the cell across from them, Ryan Powell was doing push-ups. Sweat covered his face, but he kept exercising. "I feel it trying to make me weak," he said between breaths. Dr. Amanda Brooks was in the fourth cell, writing notes on a piece of cloth she had torn from her shirt. "The resistance we're showing is unusual," she said. Most species would be unconscious by now." Kate Phillips was in the fifth cell, taking apart her wrist communicator with a small tool she had hidden in her boot. "If I can modify this thing, maybe I can learn more about their technology." 3 days passed in the crystal prison. The Zephyrians came twice each day to bring them food and water. The food looked like gray paste and tasted like nothing, but it kept them alive. On the fourth day, something different happened. The guards brought a new prisoner. He was not human. He had green, scaly skin and 4 arms. His eyes were large and golden. He moved like a reptile but walked upright like a man. The guards threw him into the cell next to Kate. One of the guards spoke in their strange language. Spoke in perfect English. "My name is Crix. I am of the Vorthok people. I have been a prisoner of the Zephyrians for 15 years. 15 years? They forced me to study their technology and improve their weapons. In return, they let me live." Lisa moved closer to the wall between her cell and Crix's. "You've studied their technology? They are just very old beings with advanced science. Their bodies are artificial. Their real minds are stored in machines." "Machines?" Jake asked. "Yes. When their artificial bodies are destroyed, their consciousness moves to a new body. This is how they live forever. But if the machines that store their minds are destroyed, they die like any other being." Ryan stopped exercising and listened carefully. "Where are these machines?" "On their capital world, Nexus Prime, in a place they call the Temple of Eternal Light, but it is heavily guarded." "Oh, right, no one has ever gotten close to it." "Modified communicator. I've been listening to their radio signals. Most of it is in their language, but I've learned some things. They're taking us to Nexus Prime." "Why?" Jake asked. Krix made a sound like a sad laugh. "Let's make an example of you. The High Council wants all the enslaved species to see what happens to those who refuse to bow. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The Celestial Dominion covers 300 star systems. Each system has multiple worlds. Each world has millions of slaves." The humans looked at each other. The size of the Zephyrian Empire was overwhelming. But Jake saw something else in his crew's faces. Not fear, but anger. "Good. Anger was better than fear," Crix Lisa said carefully. "If someone could get to these machines on Nexus Prime, could they be destroyed?" "In theory, yes. They would require detailed knowledge of their technology, and it would require getting past their entire military force." "What if that someone had help from the inside?" Kate asked, looking at Crix. The reptile scientist was quiet for a long time. "You were planning something foolish. The Zephyrians have crushed every rebellion for 10,000 years. But have they ever faced humans before?" Ryan asked. Crix admitted, "You are the first species I have seen that can resist their mental control. Most beings become docile within hours of imprisonment. You have been here for days and still show defiance." Dr. Brooks spoke up from her cell. "There might be a reason for that. Our brains develop strong resistance to outside influence." "Perhaps," Crix said, "but resistance alone is not enough. The Zephyrians have weapons that can destroy entire star systems. Tyrant makes mistakes, and every empire eventually falls." The ship shuddered suddenly. They were coming out of faster-than-light travel, through the small windows in their cells. They could see a massive planet ahead. It was covered in cities that glowed with the same white light as the Zephyrian ships. Huge towers reached into space. Ships moved between the towers like insects around a hive. "Nexus Prime," Crix whispered. "The heart of their empire." Nice. Their ship approached the planet. Jake could see other ships around them. Hundreds of vessels carrying cargo and prisoners from across the galaxy. The sight made him sick. Many beings were suffering under Zephyrian rule. But then he noticed something else. Some of the cargo ships looked damaged. Scorch marks covered their hulls. Several had sections that were clearly recent repairs. "Crix, are those battle damages on some of those ships?" The reptile scientist looked where Jake was pointing. His golden eyes widened. "Yes. There have been more attacks lately, small raids on supply convoys. The Zephyrians say it is just pirates, but the attacks are becoming more organized." "Rebellion is starting," Ryan said with satisfaction. "Small acts of defiance," Crix corrected. Yet, Lisa added, their ship landed on a massive platform surrounded by tall towers. Through the windows, they could see thousands of beings working in the distance. Some looked human-like. Others were completely alien. Slow, tired motions of slaves. Zephyrian guards came for them. These guards looked different from the ones on the ship. They were bigger, and their light was brighter. Their weapons crackled with energy. As they were led from their cells, Jake managed to get close to Crix. "Outside? Can you help us?" "What outside?" Crix asked sadly. "There is no outside. The Celestial Dominion is everything." "No," Jake said firmly. "And when they do, we'll need allies who know this place." Crix stared at him. "You really believe your people will come here? To the heart of the Empire? That is impossible." "Human history is full of impossible things," Jake replied. "We specialize in doing what can't be done." The guards pushed them forward into a transport vehicle. As they rode through the city, Jake memorized everything he saw. Guard positions, weapon emplacements, the locations of important buildings. Carved into? The walls were images of Zephyrians standing over kneeling aliens. At the top of the building, a symbol glowed with bright light, a circle with rays coming out of it like a sun. "The Hall of Divine Justice," Crix explained. As they were led into the building, Jake felt a strange confidence growing inside him. The Zephyrians thought they were bringing troublesome prisoners to justice. They had no idea they were bringing their own destruction right to the heart of their empire. The age of false gods was about to end. It would end because they had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated the determination of the human spirit. The Hall of Divine Justice was enormous. The ceiling reached so high that Jake Morrison could barely see the top. Thousands of seats filled the circular room, all facing a platform in the center. Most of the seats were empty, but Jake could see hundreds of different alien species scattered throughout the hall. All of them looked broken, their shoulders slumped. Their eyes stared at nothing. These were beings who had given up hope long ago. The humans and Crix were forced to stand on the central platform. Bright lights shone down on them from all directions. Jake had to squint to see anything beyond the platform. Then the Zephyrians appeared. 5 beings of pure light floated down from the darkness above. They wore robes that seemed to be made of stars themselves. Their faces were perfect and terrible. When they moved, reality seemed to bend around them. The one in the center was larger than the others. His light was brighter. His voice filled the entire hall when he spoke. "I am Vaxer, the Eternal, High Commander of the Celestial Dominion. For 10,000 years I have brought order to this galaxy. For 10,000 years all beings have bowed before divine authority." Jake looked around at the alien prisoners. In the seats, many were covering their eyes. Some were praying in languages he didn't understand. All of them were afraid, but Jake wasn't afraid. Neither was his crew. "You are the beings called humans," Vaxer continued. "You come from a small world on the edge of our domain. You refuse to acknowledge divine rule. Its defiance must be corrected. We bow to no tyrant," Jake said loudly. His voice echoed through the hall. Murmurs came from the seats around them. Ow. Jake heard gasps of shock. No one had spoken to Vaxer like that in centuries. Vaxer's light flared brighter. "Tyrant, I am a god. I bring peace through order. I bring prosperity through service." Lisa Carter stepped forward. "You bring slavery through fear? We've seen the ruins of the worlds you've destroyed. We know what you really are." "What am I, small being?" "A parasite," Dr. Amanda Brooks said calmly. "I feed on the suffering of others." "You're not a god. You're not even alive in any real sense. You're just a machine pretending to have a soul." The hall went completely silent. Even the other Zephyrians looked shocked. No one had ever spoken such words in this sacred place. Vaxer raised his hand. Energy crackled around his fingers. "You will learn respect." A bolt of white lightning shot toward Jake, but instead of hitting him, it struck an invisible barrier. The lightning scattered harmlessly around the humans. Ryan Powell was holding a small device that Kate Phillips had given him. It glowed with soft blue light. "Possible," whispered one of the other Zephyrians. Kate smiled. "Figured out how your energy weapons work. It wasn't that hard. Any decent engineer could build a defense against them." Vaxer's perfect face twisted with anger. "You dare use stolen technology against divine power?" It's not stolen, Kate replied. Invented it myself using basic physics. Your technology isn't that advanced. It's just very old. More murmurs came from the watching aliens. Jake could hear excitement in some of the voices now. Hope was beginning to return to eyes that had been empty for years, but Vaxter wasn't finished. Very well. If technology fails, we will use our true power. All 5 Zephyrians began to glow brighter. A combined light filled the hall. Jake felt pressure building in his mind. Thoughts that weren't his own tried to force their way into his head. Kneel. Submit. Obey. You are nothing. We are everything. Resistance is meaningless. Jake gritted his teeth and fought back. His crew did the same. Even Crix stood straighter, resisting the mental assault. But something else was happening. The alien prisoners in the seats were standing up. One by one, they began to speak. I remember my homeworld, said a being with blue skin and 4 eyes. I remember when we were free. My people had our own government, added a creature that looked like a walking tree. We chose our own leaders. The Zephyrians killed my family, hissed a snake-like alien. They said it was divine will. More voices joined in. Hundreds of prisoners began sharing their stories. The mental control that had kept them passive for years was breaking down. Vaxter turned his attention to the crowd. Silence. You will remember your place. But his power was weaker now. The humans had shown that. Zephyrians could be resisted. That knowledge was spreading like fire through the hall. Jake seized the moment. People of the galaxy, you don't have to live like this. The Zephyrians are not gods. They're just bullies with advanced technology. Guards, Vaxter screamed. Stop this at once. Zephyrian soldiers began moving toward the platform. But they found their way blocked by alien prisoners who had finally remembered how to fight. The hall erupted into chaos. Aliens who had been slaves for decades began attacking their guards. Some had no weapons except their bare hands, but they fought with the fury of the long oppressed. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. We need to move now.
Guys.
The humans and Crix fought their way through the crowd. Ryan used his shield device to protect them from Zephyrian energy weapons. Kate led them toward a side exit she had spotted during their entry. But Vaxter wasn't going to let them escape so easily. The High Commander rose into the air, his light blazing like a small sun. Enough, he roared. I will end this rebellion. Myself. He raised both hands above his head. Energy began building between his fingers. Jake could feel the heat from across the room. He's charging some kind of super weapon, Lisa warned. That's when Amanda Brooks did something unexpected. She pulled out her scanner and pointed it at Vaxter. But she had modified it using knowledge gained from Crix. You want to see divine power? She called out. Let me show you what a real god looks like. She pressed a button on her scanner. A beam of red light shot out and struck Vaxter in the chest. The effect was immediate. Vaxter's perfect form began to flicker like a broken hologram. His light grew dim. For just a moment, the watching crowd could see what he really was, a collection of circuits and energy fields, held together by ancient technology. Impossible. Vaxter gasped. His voice was no longer perfect. Crackled with static. Our consciousness transfer system has a weakness, Amanda explained calmly. Disrupt the quantum field that holds your pattern together, and you become just another machine. Vaxter tried to reform his body, but the damage was done. The other Zephorians moved to help him, but more alien prisoners were joining the fight. The revolution was spreading beyond the hall. Through the building's windows, Jake could see lights flashing across the city. Explosions bloomed in the distance. The uprising was no longer contained to one building. This is just the beginning, Jake told Vaxter as the humans backed toward the exit. Your empire is finished. We are eternal, Vaxter replied, but his voice was weak now. Duh. We have ruled for 10,000 years. We will rule for 10,000 more. Your rule ends today, Jake said firmly. As they reached the exit, alarms began. Sounding throughout the city, emergency lights flashed red and white. The sound of energy weapons echoed from the streets outside. Crix grabbed Jake's arm. There are maintenance tunnels beneath the city. If we can reach them, I know places where we can hide. We're not hiding, Ryan said, checking his weapon. We're fighting. against the entire Zephyrian military? Crix asked in disbelief. Lisa smiled. We don't have to fight them all. Just have to survive long enough for our people to arrive. Your people are on the other side of the galaxy, Crix protested. Kate held up her modified communicator. Not anymore. I sent a message to Earth the moment we landed. I told them everything we learned about Zephyrian technology and defenses. Jake nodded with satisfaction. Help is coming. And when it gets here, this empire of slaves and false gods is going to burn. Outside the building, the night sky was lit with the fires of rebellion. After 10,000 years of oppression, the galaxy was finally fighting back, and it was all because 5 humans had refused to kneel. 3 months had passed since the uprising began on Nexus Prime. Jake Morrison crouched behind broken concrete in what used to be a Zephyrian government building. Smoke filled the air. Sound of energy weapons echoed through the ruined city. The rebellion had spread faster than anyone expected. Crix had been right about one thing. There were hundreds of enslaved species across the Zephyrian Empire. When news of the human defiance reached them, they remembered what freedom meant. But the Zephyrians were fighting back hard, their war. Machines rolled through the streets, destroying everything in their path. Their flying ships rained death from the sky. For every victory the rebels won, they paid in blood. Lisa Carter crawled up beside Jake. Her science officer uniform was torn and dirty. A cut ran across her left cheek. Any word from Earth? Jake shook his head. Kate's still trying to reach them. The Zephyrians are jamming most communications. Across the ruined plaza, Ryan Powell led a team of alien fighters toward a Zephyrian patrol. The rebels had learned to work together despite their different shapes and abilities. Humans were good at planning. The 4-armed Vorthok like Crix were excellent at building weapons. The tree-like Cylani could hide anywhere. The snake people could move through spaces no one else could reach. Jake. Dr. Amanda Brooks called from inside the building. You need to see this. Jake and Lisa hurried inside. Amanda was working at a captured Zephyrian computer terminal. Alien text scrolled across the screen. I've been monitoring their military communications, Amanda explained. The Zephyrians are pulling their fleets back from the outer systems. They're concentrating everything here at Nexus Prime. Why would they do that? Lisa asked. Crix looked up from the weapon he was repairing. His golden eyes were worried, because they were planning to use the stellar cascade bombs. Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. What are those? Weapons that can make stars explode, Crix explained. They've used them before when rebellions got too large. They would rather destroy entire systems than lose control of them. They'd destroy their own capital world? Lisa asked in shock. No, Amanda said, reading more of the intercepted messages. They're not targeting Nexus Prime. They're targeting Earth. The room went silent. Jake stared at the alien text on the screen, wishing. He couldn't understand what it meant. They want to send a message to the galaxy, Amanda continued. Destroy the human homeworld to show what happens when you defy divine authority. Jake's hands clenched into fists. His people were in danger because of what he and his crew had started. Billions of innocent humans faced death because 5 explorers had refused to kneel. When he asked quietly, the fleet is already moving, Amanda replied. They'll reach Earth in 10 days. Kate Phillips came running into the room. Hair was black with soot, but her eyes were bright with excitement. I got through. I made contact with Earth. Are they sending help? Ryan asked. He had just returned from his patrol. Kate's smile was fierce. They're not sending help. They're sending everything. She activated a small communication device she had built from salvaged parts. Admiral Patricia Hayes' voice came through the static. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Hayes of the United Earth Fleet. We received your intelligence about Zephyrian technology. Our entire fleet is en route to. Your position? How many ships? Jake asked. Every vessel we have. 300 combat ships, including our new flagship, the UES Liberty. Captain Alex Turner is commanding the advance force. Captain Maria Santos is leading the heavy assault group with the UES Defiance. Jake closed his eyes and felt relief wash over him. Earth hadn't forgotten them. Admiral, The Zephyrians are sending a fleet to attack Earth, he reported. Stellar cascade bombs that can destroy our sun. We know, Admiral Hayes replied. Our deep space sensors detected their movement. Don't worry about Earth, Captain. Worry about your mission. What mission? You're going to destroy the Temple of Eternal Light? Our scientists have studied your data about Zephyrian consciousness storage. If we can destroy their central control system, their entire empire will collapse. Crix made a hissing sound. The temple is impossible to reach. It's protected by energy shields that can stop any weapon. Not any weapon, Kate said with a grin. I've been working on something special. She led them to another room where she had been building a device from captured Zephyrian technology. It looked like a metal backpack with glowing tubes attached. It's a quantum disruptor, Kate explained, similar to what Amanda used on Vaxthor, but much more powerful. What? It can break down the energy fields that hold Zephyrian consciousness patterns together. Will it work on their shields? Ryan asked. In theory, yes. Someone has to get close enough to the temple to use it. That's suicide, Crix protested. The temple is at the center of the city. It's surrounded by thousands of guards. It's not. If we create a big enough distraction, Jake said thoughtfully. Admiral Hayes' voice came through the communicator again. Captain Morrison, our advanced ships will arrive in 3 days. Can you hold your position until then? Jake looked around at his team. Lisa was injured but determined. Ryan was tired but ready to fight. Amanda was scared but brave. Kate was excited about her new weapon. Even Crix, who had been a slave for 15 years, was willing to risk everything for freedom. We'll hold, Jake promised. But even as he said it, explosions shook the building. Through the broken windows, they could see Zephyrian war machines. Approaching, the enemy had found their hiding place. Time to move, Ryan announced, grabbing his weapons. The next 3 days were the longest of Jake's life. The rebels fought from building to building, trying to stay ahead of the Zephyrian military. They lost many good fighters. Brave aliens who had found the courage to resist died protecting others, but they also won victories. Amanda's knowledge of Zephyrian technology helped them capture enemy weapons. Kate's modifications made their equipment more effective. Ryan's tactical skills kept them alive when the odds seemed impossible. On the 3rd day, the sky above Nexus Prime suddenly filled with new ships. But these weren't the glowing white vessels of the Zephyrians. These were the gray and blue warships of Earth. The U's Liberty led the charge, its weapons blazing. Behind it came dozens of other human ships, each one firing at Zephyrian positions. The space battle was beautiful and terrible to watch. Jake, Lisa shouted over the noise of explosions. Look at the temple. The Temple of Eternal Light sat in, the center of the city like a huge crystal mountain. Its energy shields flickered as human weapons pounded against them. But the shields were holding. We need to get closer, Jake decided. Kate, is your disruptor ready? As ready as it's going. To be, Kate replied, strapping the device to her back. I'm coming with you, Ryan insisted. Me too, said Lisa. And me, added Amanda. Even Crix stood up, holding a captured Zephyrian weapon. My people have been slaves long enough. It's time to be free. Jake looked at his friends, human and alien, who were willing to risk everything for the chance to end 10,000 years of tyranny. They might die in the attempt. Probably would die. But they would die as free beings, not as slaves. Then let's go finish this, Jake said. Outside, the battle for the future of the galaxy raged in the smoke-filled streets, but the real war would be won or lost in the crystal halls of the Temple of Eternal Light. The Temple of Eternal Light stood like a crystal mountain in the center of Nexus Prime. Its walls glowed with the same white light that powered the Zephyrian Empire. Energy shields surrounded it, crackling with deadly power. Jake Morrison and his team crouched behind the ruins of a statue that had once shown a Zephyrian standing over kneeling slaves. The statue lay broken in pieces. Jake thought it was a good sign. Above them, the space battle continued. Human ships fought Zephyrian vessels among the stars. Explosions lit up the night sky like fireworks. Jake could see that the Earth fleet was winning. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy that fought back with such determination. The shields are weakening, Lisa Carter reported, watching her scanner. The orbital bombardment is draining their power. Kate Phillips adjusted the quantum disruptor. On her back, the device hummed with energy. Once we get inside, I'll need about 10 minutes to reach the central control matrix. You'll have it, Ryan Powell promised, checking his weapon. Dr. Amanda Brooks was studying the temple through binoculars. I can see the entrance. It's guarded by at least 50 Zephyrian soldiers. Crix hissed softly. There will be more inside. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. Then we'll fight hundreds, Jake said simply. Around them, alien rebels prepared for the final assault. Beings who had been slaves their entire lives now carried weapons and hope in equal measure. They came from dozens of different worlds, but they all wanted the same thing: freedom. A new voice came through Kate's communicator. This is Captain Alex Turner of the UES Liberty. The orbital defenses are down, ready to provide fire support. This is Captain Morrison, Jake replied. Begin the attack. Light filled the sky as human ships opened fire on the temple's shields. Beams of energy struck the protective barrier again and again. Each hit made the shields flicker and spark. Now, Jake shouted. The rebels charged across the open plaza toward the temple. Zephyrian guards fired their energy weapons, but the humans had learned to move quickly and use cover. Ryan's team threw devices that created clouds of smoke and confusion. The first line of guards fell quickly. They had expected easy targets, not warriors who refused to give up. Jake reached the temple entrance first. The massive doors were made of the same crystal as the walls. But Kate's equipment could break through anything the Zephyrians built. Stand back, Kate warned. She activated a cutting tool that sliced through the crystal like it was paper. Inside, the temple was even more impressive than Jake had imagined. The walls stretched up higher than he could see. Pillars of light supported the ceiling. Everything glowed with that familiar white radiance. But the most amazing sight was the central chamber. In the middle of the room stood a pillar of pure energy. It reached from the floor to the distant ceiling. Around it, thousands of small lights danced like stars. Consciousness storage matrix, Crix whispered in awe. Every Zephyrian mind in the Empire is connected to this, and this is where we end their rule, Jake said. But they weren't alone in the chamber. Commander Zelthos stood between them and the central pillar. Behind him were dozens of Zephyrion. Elite guards, you have come far. Humans, Zelthos said. His voice sounded different than before, less certain. But this is where your rebellion ends. Your people are losing the battle in space, Lisa told him. Your empire is crumbling. Do you still fight for them? Zelthos was quiet for a moment, because I do not know how to be anything else. I have served the Celestial Dominion for 3,000 years. You can learn, Amanda said gently. It's never too late to choose freedom over slavery. Even if you free the enslaved worlds, what then? Zelthos asked. Who will maintain order? Who will prevent chaos? We will, Jake replied. All of us, together. Free beings governing themselves. Impossible, Zelthos said, but his voice lacked conviction. That's when Vaxthor, the Eternal, appeared. His form was less solid than before, damaged by Amanda's earlier attack. But his rage was as strong as ever. Enough talk, Vaxthor screamed. I am tired of these insects defying divine will. He raised his hands and energy crackled around his fingers. But before he could attack, something unexpected happened. Commander Zelthos stepped forward and fired his weapon at Vaxthor. The beam struck the high commander in the chest. Vaxthor's form flickered and sparked. Zelthos, what are you doing? Am choosing freedom, Zelthos replied. The elite guards looked at each other in confusion. Their commander had turned against the High Council. Some lowered their weapons. Others raised them toward Zelswas. The chamber erupted into chaos. Zephyrians fought Zephyrians while humans and aliens pushed toward the central pillar. Kate ran. Through the battle, dodging energy beams and falling debris, the quantum disruptor on her back grew heavier with each step. But she didn't stop. Ryan and a team of rebel fighters held the entrance, preventing more guards from entering. Amanda worked frantically on a captured computer terminal, trying to understand the temple's systems, Jake. Lisa called out. I'm reading massive energy buildup. Vaxter is trying to overload the matrix. Jake looked toward the central pillar. Vaxter hovered beside it, his damaged form pouring energy into the consciousness storage system. If he succeeded, the explosion would destroy the entire city. He'd rather kill everyone than lose control. Jake realized. Kate reached the base of the pillar. She began setting up her quantum disruptor, but Vaxter saw her. You will not destroy 10,000 years of divine rule. He screamed. Energy blasted from his hands toward Kate, but Jake threw himself in front of the beam. The energy struck him and sent him flying across the chamber. Jake! Lisa screamed. Jake tried to get up, but his body wouldn't obey. The Zephyrian energy had damaged something inside him. He could feel his strength fading. But Kate was still working. Her quantum disruptor was almost ready. 30 seconds. She called out. Vaxter gathered energy for another attack. This time, he aimed at the quantum disruptor itself. But Commander Zelthos stood in his way. Your reign ends here, Vaxter. You dare challenge a god? I challenge a tyrant, Zelthos replied. The two Zephyrians fought with powers that bent reality. Around them, energy crashed against energy. Light battled light. Ready? Kate announced. She activated the quantum disruptor. A wave of red energy spread out from the device, washing over the central pillar. The effect was immediate. The thousands of dancing lights around the pillar began to flicker and fade. Throughout the chamber, Zephyrian guards suddenly became solid, and heavy as their energy forms destabilized, Vaxter turned toward Kate, his perfect face twisted with rage. What have you done? We've set the galaxy free, Kate replied. Vaxter lunged toward her, but his form was breaking apart. The quantum field that held his consciousness together was collapsing. He reached out desperately, trying to maintain his existence. We are eternal, he screamed. We are gods. You were never gods, Jake said, forcing himself to stand despite his injuries. You were just bullies who forgot that every bully eventually meets someone stronger. Vaxter's form dissolved into sparks of fading light. His final scream echoed through the chamber, then silence fell. Around the galaxy, the effect was immediate. Zephyrian soldiers suddenly found themselves mortal and vulnerable. Their weapons stopped working. Their ships lost power. 10 years of technological superiority vanished in an instant. The enslaved worlds erupted in celebration. Species that had been prisoners for centuries remembered what freedom felt like. The celestial dominion crumbled as quickly as it had been built. Jake looked around the chamber. His crew was battered but alive. Crix and the other aliens were helping wounded rebels. Even Commander Zelthos had survived, though his light was dim. Is it over? Lisa asked. Kate checked her instruments. The consciousness matrix is completely destroyed. Every Zephyrian artificial body has reverted to basic matter. Their empire is finished. What happens now? Zelthos asked quietly. Now we build something better, Jake replied. A galaxy where no one claims to be a god, and everyone gets to choose their own path. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a new ship. Not a warship, but an exploration vessel, designed by humans and aliens working together. The Galactic Liberation Coalition had asked him to lead their first joint mission to unexplored space. Through the viewport, he could see ships from dozens of different worlds. Former slaves now flew as equals, sharing knowledge and friendship. Instead of serving masters, the age of false gods was over. The age of freedom had begun, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, new civilizations waited to learn that the galaxy belonged to all who lived in it, not just those strong enough to claim dominion over others.